Hi folks, welcome back. I hope you're all doing well. So I'm in the middle of reading a paper and we'll be back with regular programming next week. But in the meanwhile, I got a comment on one of my older videos asking about how I go about finding the papers that I read on my channel. And I thought I'd take a quick minute to answer that. So computer science is a little different compared to most other academic disciplines in that almost all the cutting edge research is published at conferences rather than journals. And so I want to go through some of the conferences I usually look at. This is going to be very skewed towards my own personal interests. I usually follow operating systems, languages, that sort of thing, but I'll try to mention some other venues as well. In general, you should start with a field where you already have a good base, where you know what the best current practices are and you're curious about expanding outwards from there. If you feel like you don't have a good base, I'd say you should first try textbooks and tutorials rather than diving into research. So here are some of the venues that I usually go looking at to find papers to read. For programming languages, probably the best known conference is PLDI, the Programming Languages Design and Implementation Conference. There's also POPL, Principles of Programming Languages. That tends to be much more theoretically oriented. So PLDI usually will have a lot more papers on language design and implementation and techniques for compilers and analysis and so on, whereas POPL will be heavily skewed towards proving things correct, type systems, analysis of type systems, that kind of stuff. Another really big venue for programming is OOPSLA. This is the Object-Oriented Programming Systems, Languages, and Applications Conference. I think it might have changed names. It's called SPLASH. Or OOPSLA is part of a larger conference called SPLASH now. For operating systems and systems in general, the first conference I usually go hunting in is OSDI, Operating Systems Design and Implementation. There's another conference that I find very interesting, that's ASPLOS, the conference on architectural support for programming languages and operating systems. And the reason that's really interesting is because it's more of a hardware and architecture conference, but as the name suggests, it talks about micro-architectural support and designs for programming languages and systems. So you tend to find a lot of papers about how various chip features or various hardware features should be designed and how that hardware interacts with things like compilers and virtual machines and operating systems. So it's kind of a meeting of two worlds, and that's why it's pretty interesting. Here are some other venues that serve as good jumping off points for their fields. For graphics, the premier conference is SIGGRAPH. For software engineering, it's ICSE, the International Conference on Software Engineering. There's MobiSys for mobile systems, SIG Chi for HCI and human factors research. And then for machine learning, which I don't follow very closely, but a couple of good conferences are ICML for machine learning and CVPR for computer vision. Lately, you'll actually find a lot of conferences put their proceedings up on YouTube. So that's a great way to look at the authors themselves talking about their work at the venue. So if you go looking around YouTube, you'll find plenty of online proceedings. I want to give a shout out to a tool that I use very, very often and find extremely useful, and it is connectedpapers.com. Connectedpapers.com. And what this tool does is let you search for papers, but the feature that I use the most is this view of papers that are linked to each other via their citations. So you can go look for a specific paper like Dijkstra's Go To Considered Harmful, and you'll see over here a graph, and you can see the paper itself, but you can see all these other papers that paper cites or that are cited by that paper. And this is a great way to find one paper and then use it as a jumping off point into related research or similar research. Highly recommended. So I hope that gives you a few jumping off points and tools to go looking for your own papers and read and have fun and learn about cool new stuff. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much.